Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Swami Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self realization. Please subscribe our channel for the mystical meanings and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently exploring the book Yoga Essays for Self Improvement, authored by Swami Jyotirmayananda, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. Today we will be discussing how to practice integral yoga. Integral yoga implies a balanced and harmonious practice of the four main aspects of yoga: the yoga of wisdom, which is known as Jnana Yoga, yoga of devotion or Bhakti Yoga, yoga of meditation or Raja Yoga, and the yoga of action, Karma Yoga. These four are not actually four different yogas, but they're four different aspects of one integral yoga process, four interdependent movements on the path of mysticism. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit root letter yuj, which means to unite or to connect with God. So, connecting with God consciously is our process of yoga, and there are different ways to reach the same one God. So there are not different yogas, just the same thing. The general outlines in the practice of integral yoga begins with karma yoga, or the performance of action with insight. Because when you simply do action, it's called karma action, because you do it for money, or what would I get out of it. But if the same action becomes selfless and divine, it becomes yoga, because now you are not bringing yourself into the picture, you are trying to help others with it. A karma yogi endeavors to see that whatever he does is done with the inward attitude of surrender and detachment. He does not expect any fruit of his action. He doesn't want it. Whatever comes, God gives it to him. But he is not running after the results or the desires. Keeping this inward attitude, he outwardly performs righteous actions that allow him to be serviceable to others. They become God's channels, ambassadors of God. This yoga then removes gross impurities in the form of hatred, egoism, greed, and vanity, thereby bringing about chitta shuddhi, or a high degree of purity in the heart. That's why it's recommended people getting into spirituality to start doing some karma yoga, selfless action to purify themselves. Such purity allows the aspirant to unlock the higher mystic movements of devotion and meditation. That's why it's considered an essential step. A spiritual aspirant begins to experience higher forms of love, a love that is divine. This experience in turn makes his karma yoga more intensive. Though he began practicing karma yoga with a certain amount of effort, the moment he develops this insight into divine love, he discovers great joy and spontaneity in his activity. Along with devotion, a karma yogi also gains a footing into true mental concentration, an insight into the fact that the world is not meant to distract his mind but lead him to the source of creation. In addition to concentration, a yogi gains an insight into the mystic art of balancing the mind, even during daily duties and activities. Thus, his active life at the same time enhances and is enhanced by his meditative life. So it's an overall spiral that helps him to grow. And finally, as devotion and meditation further purify the unconscious, there emerges intuitive vision. The yogi is led to Jnana Yoga, or the yoga of wisdom. He inquires into the nature of who am I, and ultimately attains enlightenment, which is the main goal of a yogi. This is the simple plan of integral yoga. The practice of action leads to mental purity. Mental purity unfolds devotion. Devotion leads to success in meditation, and success in meditation renders the intellect sharp and subtle. And ultimately, that subtle intellect penetrates the veil of ignorance, thereby leading to enlightenment. So, as you can see, it's an interrelated progressive movement. The importance of integral yoga is apparent, but yet it must be deeply understood. If you are practicing a one sided yoga, only bhakti or only karma, it may seem easier at first, but it will not effectively lead you to the goal. Balance is the secret of success in every field of life. If, for example, you are carrying a load on a bicycle, there is a bundle in the front, a bundle behind, and perhaps a passenger or two, a balance has to be kept. If it is slightly upset, the results would be rather painful to say the least. Much in the same way, it is most important for a yogi to follow a balanced plan. It is not how intensive your practice is, but how balanced it is. Rhythm is the most important aspect of integral yoga. Consistency, rhythm, doing it with love and an open heart. All these things are very helpful. An integral yogi practices the different yogas and their disciplines daily in a happy and balanced proportion. Simply put, in your day to day life, there must be a little meditation, a little study of scriptures, a little repetition of mantra, and a little yoga exercises, a little inward reflection, a little action, little entertainment or diversion also. If all these are artistically blended day by day, you will continue to advance, though apparently in a slow measure, yet in a process it is definite and complete. It's a holistic way. It's like healing from a disease. It takes time, but if you are consistent, you do your exercises, you eat proper food, and you take your medicines, then you start healing. Much in the same way, you follow these things in a rhythmic way, life becomes better and holistic. Consider, for example, how two different people might plan a trip. One person is so excited and hasty. He has so many things that need to be taken, but in his excitement, he leaves some of them behind. He drives his car off like a jet. Then, halfway there, he suddenly remembers something that was left behind. He goes back and repeats the process. To make matters worse, in this mad rush, he occasionally trips and falls, gets stressed. On the other hand, his neighbor is meticulous. He sees everything he needs, calmly gets everything together, and starts out. He knows he does not have to come back. Therefore, although he starts slowly, he continues to gather momentum until his speed is unimaginable. And after a certain stage of development, he arrives at his destination of self realization. But he began in a balanced manner. This was the emphasis of all the great teachers of the present time. Our Param Guru, Swami Shivananda Ji Maharaj, specially emphasized this balance and called it the yoga of synthesis. Swami Vivekananda also emphasized this need. All sages and saints who are enlightened understand its value and importance. However, integral yoga has its roots in ancient times. The Bhagavad Gita is a most ancient scripture and gives the condensed version of the Upanishads. The Upanishads intend to teach integral yoga, but because of the limitation of the human mind, the four aspects were interpreted as distinct systems of yoga, each one different from the others. Bhakti yoga, jnana, dhyana, karma. Actually, it's all the same. Yet, with deep insight, you realize that the basic teachings of the Upanishads are integral. which means they are interrelated. You can't separate one from the other. They deal with life, and life cannot be segmented, cannot be fragmented. Human personality has its particular aspects, which are reason, emotion, will, and action, and all must grow together. An illustration of tuning a veena is used to emphasize the necessity of balance. Melodious music cannot proceed from the veena, the stringed musical instrument, unless its strings are well tuned. If they are too tight, they will break. If they are too loose, they will not be clear. Sound will not come. Only when they are neither too tight nor too loose will there be sweet music. So, with this, let us conclude this satsanga for today, and we will continue this chapter on balancing and integral yoga in tomorrow's satsang. Hari Om Tat Sat.